We don't play the social game. We are social. Power 98.5.
Hey everybody, this is Nick Mayhew, three-time gold medalist and three-time world record holder, and you're listening to Power 98.5.
You're listening to Power 98.5, powered by United Angels Dream, your #1 resource for public relations, entertainment, and multimedia. Contact them today at unitedangelsdream.com.
Hey, what's up? My name's Grant Kanoki. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, and artist, and you're listening to Power 98.5.
I got to read something here. I found this on TikTok. It was by Stassi_11. This is what she wrote or posted. My therapist once said, it takes years to learn the difference between who to let go and who to be patient with. The same way it takes years to know what you deserve and what you don't. So hang in there. Growth and experience come with time. How do you feel about that, Jake?
Well, I think it's encouraging. There's something good about getting older, and first of all, but I think that's very true, and I think that is. I mean, just experience does teach you who to recognize is on your side, but also realizing, that really, I think it's easier as you get older to prioritize yourself. Certainly, that's something to still work on, and learning by prioritizing yourself, you're actually helping those that are around you. Because if you're taking care of yourself, then you're better able to take care of anyone else. So I think there's a lot of, I like how she put that. There's a lot of truth in that.
Here's one other thing. People, I don't know if you've been noticing this or not, Jake. People are really posting remarks, quotes, inspirations, not because it's a trend. I would feel it if it was. There's really a difference that, when people are sharing, whether it's personal information and or just, what I just read, it's because they really want someone to recognize the greatness within themselves and to be able to take the opportunity and hold on real quick. Thank you, Brian. Hold on real quick. What is going on? I want to thank you, Sarah. All right. We've been having a little bit of connection. There we go. We've been having a little bit of connection issues today, but we're here. We're back. Thank you again for that. I'm glad you were able to hear it. There's another quote, to go back to what I said, people are sharing because something is shifting in a world, especially this year. And it's not a trend. It's not a fad. People are really caring, Jake, about their well-being. And they're letting it be known online that they're done with the BS. They want better. They're going to do better. And they're being selfless enough to say, hey, this is what I'm recognizing within myself. Don't you think it's time for you to recognize it, to no longer settle for people who are fake and phony and try to stay up with trends and everything else that's out there? Just go be who you are and love who you are.
Yeah, I think there's been a big shift in that. I think there is a shift happening right now. And realizing it's kind of been this dark cloud, I feel like, hovering over the world. And I feel like people are like, I'm going to do something about this. I'm not going to let negativity and all this, outside influences anymore. I'm going to take control of my own life and make this life what I want it to be, and take and be who I am and go for that. And I think it's nice to see. I think there is a shift that's really happening.
This was, I really appreciate, this was sent in by Ira. This quote by former U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt. I normally don't read anything from because God, he knows what people think. But let's just look at, I don't know what your thoughts are about presidents and Theodore, but let's just listen to to this. This is a point. Emphasizes the importance of belief in achieving success. It suggests that having a positive mindset and a strong belief in oneself is key to making progress towards our goals. When we believe in ourselves, we are more likely to take action and persevere in the face of challenges. By contrast, self-doubt can hold us back and make it difficult to achieve our full potential. This quote reminds us that our mindset plays a crucial role in determining our success, and that by cultivating a strong belief in ourselves, we can overcome obstacles and accomplish great things. Those were two back-to-back things that came to me today.
Yeah, synchronicity, I think, there, you know, when you're finding things like that that really seem so connected. And I think we can find those throughout the day and throughout the week. But it's great when that happens. So I love that quote. I think, you know, what is interesting, that got me thinking when you were reading that, Steve. My longtime acting coach, Richard Syed, has always talked to us about separating beliefs and facts. And let me just explain that for a second. Let's say an actor in the US is from another country. There may be the fact that they have, let's say, an accent. That's a fact. But a belief would be that because I have an accent, I'm not booking work. And that may not be the case. Maybe that accent, Sofia Vergara, she books work because of her accent. You know, so you have to separate those facts and those beliefs. Facts are things that are undeniable. I'm a 6'1" male. That's a fact. But saying, well, right now that's going to hold me back from you know, booking jobs, or, you know, I'm too old, or I don't have enough credits. Those are just beliefs that we have to shift. There's certain things we can't change that are facts, but the beliefs about ourselves, the perceptions, that's what we have control over. And I think we limit ourselves way too often about those beliefs, and we can shift that and change that. And I think that's really powerful for people to start doing.
What everyone knows, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in, you are in the Actors and Athletes studio with Stephen Cuoco and Jake Jensen. If you haven't already, big shout out and love to my dearest friend, Marcos Papadatos. Thank you for the article that was just published as of yesterday about Jake. Really great. I took some screenshots of it, posted it or shared it on my Instagram. Jake's going to be sharing it later on. We are covering top 5 tips today. Top 5 tips to enhance your well-being while gaining maximum results. It's all about new ideas, better life, better living. For you, Jake, from your perspective, and this is number 1, what does it mean to invest in yourself?
Yes, so that's a great question. And before I jump into that, I just want to also thank Marcos for the great article and interview. Really appreciated it, and I think, yeah, I'm excited to share it as well on my social media later today. But going back to the question, what does it mean to invest in yourself? You know, we had thrown this around earlier, you know, in the week about a topic and talking point, and it was really good for me to think about. What does it mean to invest, you know, in myself, but also for anyone listening in yourself? And I really think that valuing yourself and your self-worth is so crucial to this, and realizing that I deserve to be seen, I deserve to be heard, I deserve to grow and become a stronger and better person. I deserve to let myself shine. And I think a lot of that is just allowing yourself to do that. And I realize people are coming from all different backgrounds and were raised differently, and, you know, have some people have more baggage than others. But I think we all at some point have to really learn to value ourselves, and then to go, what am I going to do to get to where I want to be, and truly invest in that process. And, you know, I've been doing that this last year. There's even few months, there's been a big shift. And, you know, I've had a lot of great accomplishments in my life, but you know, about 3 or 4 months ago, just really looked myself in the eye and said, is this am I doing everything I can to reach my ultimate goals and dreams? And am I really doing everything possible? I may be working hard, but am I really working smart? Am I making sure I'm surrounding myself by the people that are going to really help me do that? And we'll get into that in a few minutes. But I think, no matter what stage of life we're at, we have to sometimes, first of all, recognize that we have to invest in ourselves and that we deserve that. But I think it's an ongoing process as well. We have to remind ourselves of that sometimes as well.
I agree. To add, once to put the question there again, what does it mean to invest in yourself? And thank you, Jake, for your perspective. What I've experienced in life, especially the last 2 years, is to truly, and I'm processing here, what have I been doing? I've been slowing down. I've been forcing myself to slow down, to not be so much like a machine, and to believe that I have to constantly produce, connect, establish, and generate connections or anything else. With working in public relations, I very much operate like a machine. What's next? You have an understanding of what I do, and people are like, will have a comment just like, for both of us, like, wow, what you accomplished, Jake, as a professional athlete. Matt, asked, I told him, I sent him a DM. I said, you and Jake definitely need to connect. And I put it in the comment too, well before that event next year. Why? It's taking opportunities to invest in yourself. To sum it up, especially after the response of today's post, is when you're making a connection, why wait? There is no reason to wait. But also don't lose yourself in the process by allowing the experience and the opportunity to cause you to disconnect from yourself when you're to where you can't embody and be present in the opportunity. And that's so much of a difference. I always was connected, but from the outside of opportunities, because I'm very goal and results driven. And I've learned even more by disconnecting and being more present that I was robbing myself the opportunity to be connected, fully connected to the experience, the mood, the vibe, the energy, the nuances. And my relationships, even with you, Jake, has gone to a whole new level because I'm not just sitting here with you. I am now sitting here being part of you in this moment.
Yeah, and thank you, Steve, for sharing that. What I love about this too is investing in yourself. I mean, for you, it was recognizing the need to slow down and to take time for yourself because you're so results driven. And I think I handled that. I already had that part kind of figured out pretty well. But for me, what I've learned from you is like, for me, I needed to, and I'm working on this still, is when there's an opportunity to connect with someone, take it now. Don't put that off. I mean, the number of events and people I've met and connected with in the last couple of months is been phenomenal, and I'm really enjoying it. And that's something that I did not do very well necessarily before. So I love that investing in yourself can be different for where you're at in your life. It's different for you than it is for me, but we both recognized what we needed and what we needed to invest in terms of that would help us kind of move our lives, move our careers, move ourselves forward in a positive way.
Going in and seeing what we have next. All right, second would be accountability partner. This is where I describe it as how to recognize when your support system and network no longer have your back and are no longer invested in what you do and who you are. And how I believe from reading that, it is something people, probably over 98% of people, give or take or so, experience every day, either getting lost in the connection and not assessing and evaluating and questioning the value of what they've learned and the knowledge, and then those that come to find, and it goes back to the first quote that I read, they question and fall into some pit and possible despair or fight or flight as to, oh my God, I've invested a week, months, years into this person. And then all of a sudden that they realize that they've expelled and allowed someone else or something else to consume them. And they totally forgot about who they are.
Yes, I agree with that. This accountability is interesting because I've spoken on a previous show a little bit about my Mars approach to consulting, and accountability is what the A in the Mars approach stands for. So I'm all about accountability, but I also think that idea of who are we accountable to, but also not getting overshadowed or totally caught up in somebody else's world and identity that we stop looking at our own. And that can be a romantic relationship, that could be a boss. For athletes, that could be a coach or even a team network around them. And I think sometimes you just have to say, is this really healthy and what's good for me, and be willing to step away or to look for a change. And I don't know, for me, that's actually something that I've always come pretty naturally to me, is sensing when a situation or an individual in my life is bringing me down, and stepping away and finding a new network. But I don't think that's necessarily an easy thing to do at all. I think some of us, it comes more naturally than others, but I think it's really important to really look at how is this relationship influencing my own, again, talking about investing in yourself. How is it supporting the investment in myself to be the best version of who I want to be or who I am?
Here's something, and I really appreciate this. Big shout out to Jason. This was just sent in. This is by Abraham Hicks. Let me read this. When you find vibrational alignment with you, you personally thrive. You feel good, you look good, you have stamina, you have energy, you have balance, you have clarity, you have wit, you have abundance of all things that you consider to be good. You thrive in all ways when you come into energy balance with you. Vibrational relativity, that's what it's all about. And that's exactly what we're discussing here. It's about balance. It's about you. Do you know who you are? Do you know what you believe is to be true about your belief systems and your character and the alignment of goals and opportunities and passion and people that are there not to sustain you, but are there to help each other elevate one another? Is that making sense?
Well, it makes perfect sense to me because I'm living it as well. I mean, the people that have come into my life in just this year, I mean, you as a friend and as a co-host and public relations has been huge. But I've had some other individuals come into my life that have just made such a difference, and I think it's because that energy is there, and it attracts other people with this, with that want to make me a better person. I want to help them be a better person. It's synergistic in that sense, and it's amazing to see when you're really, that energy is aligned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you want to touch on when we think about accountability partner? Now, there's accountability, and you've covered that once again in your Mars approach. I see accountability partner where it's the partnership with self and the partnership with someone else. And when that came to me, I believe that's the first time it's been referenced as to what an accountability partner could mean and how it could be interpreted. Because when we think about, or like when we covered accountability from your Mars approach, I always heard and thought and believed that that word alone means you. You know, even when someone's an employee, it's like, what are you going to be accountable for? What are you doing? Accountability partner or partnerships, it gives something different to the meaning of accountability for me.
Yes, and I think I like adding that partner part to it, because I think we all need connection, and we all need. It's a lot easier to be accountable when you have people that you're accountable to, but also, again, have, just on an energy level, want the best for you, want you to be the best version of yourself, and it can really. We're better off doing this together rather than alone. I mean, we're not in a solitary world, and when we try to do things all by ourselves, we miss out on the best opportunities. I'm somebody that's very much I don't like to ask for help. I like to do things on my own, but the reality is I'm a much greater force when I surround myself with people that bring other talents, that bring other perspectives, that help me maximize my own strengths, but also strengthen and work on some of my weaknesses. And being accountable to someone is something that I truly believe in. I mean, I have a life coach that I check in with, every other week, and we work on a vision plan, and we check in about it. And it's, I really come to value that. And I think it's a really important thing to have accountability partner or partners, depending on the situation.
The third, as you know, Jake, is schedule it. How to recognize when to prioritize and schedule to establish a sense of stability and purpose. You and I were here where we've got to learn more about each other, to where, when we think about routine, and scheduling it is not having a routine is a routine. To my point is, I don't rely, and when I think of scheduling it, here's my perspective, is I do let Siri know sometimes when to put something in a schedule, just in case when I know it's something that I really do want a notification on in the morning or whenever I set the designated time to.
Yeah.
I always start first when I think of scheduling it, not relying on digital. From my perspective, is so very important. I either write it down, however, first I program it in my memory to just continue to strengthen my brain muscles. So whatever it is that helps you and to feel stabilized and to feel happy and in control and productive, to know that you're doing something very healthy and good for yourself, whether you're in a routine or not a routine, but it still is a routine. You're scheduling how you're living life to better yourself instead of, and there are people, it goes back to what I told you before. And here's the thing, there was a boo-boo. Remember I told you in one of our interviews, I had an appointment with someone who specifically said 12:50 to 1 o'clock. I got a no call, no show. When I followed up, I heard, or response back by text, is an apology and letting me know that this is how it was stated. Time got away from me and I am now on my break. Okay. Well, you set a specific appointment for 12:50 to 1 o'clock, yet time got away from you. You're not on your break. This was after 1 o'clock. It was around 1:15 because I wanted to let it pass to see how quick this person was going to follow up, but never did. And then when I went out of my way, this is also falls into accountability partner. I come to realize that I was not a priority. I'm only going to be a priority when this person feels that I'm a priority. And where the facts are in that, Jake, is because it took a text 15 minutes later to follow up. And, oh, yes. Well, what I really heard was what I was doing was more important. And even though I made plans with you, Stephen, in a certain time slot, it was not important enough. And I'm not respecting the fact that you're going to be waiting for me. And I moved on and lived my life how I wanted to live it, knowing that you were stuck, trapped, or whatever you decided in that moment. And just to let you know, I don't fucking wait for anyone. So I did not wait. I still did what I want to do. But how many people wait and then they follow up? And whether there's an apology or not, Jake, the fact of it is that person knew that they were going to live their lives however they lived it, no matter at what expense or what it could cost their reputation. And instead of even following up to be like, oh, all right, I'm on my break, which means I'm on a break. Let me go ahead and give you maybe a 2-3 minute call. Not even that. That's the whole point of why I wanted to add schedule it, because it's not just about, oh, I'm planning and going down a calendar. We're looking at the facts that when you schedule things, the question I have is, where are you putting your life on hold and keeping yourself trapped or entrapped within a situation while knowing that you're stuck, stagnant, or however it may be, you're not moving forward, but the other person who made the arrangement or not is living their life, and it's at your expense because it cost you your time.
Yeah. There's so many there's so many points that you brought up there. I'm trying to decide which one to kind of touch on first. Going back to just scheduling, I'm like you, Steve. I've always put it in my mind first, kind of mentally program it in. And honestly, I've always done very well with that. I have a very good memory for when I have events and meetings and everything. I do a good job with that. I am noticing, and I have noticed that as I'm getting busier and busier, which is a great thing, and but I'm also having a lot more demand on my time in the last, couple months, that I also need to, for certain things, schedule it in, into my calendar with Siri and on my phone. This week, unfortunately, I had a session with an athlete that I meet with quite regularly, and I'm in Florida this week, so it's a 3-hour time difference, and that mental, internal computer just hadn't switched time zones, and so I missed her appointment, and that doesn't happen very often, but it happened to me, but I immediately apologized, gave her a free session, let her know what happened, but it also showed me I've got to make sure when there's a time change, even things like that, I've got to make sure that's also, I have a reminder and it's in my calendar. But yes, unfortunately, in terms of, honoring each other's time, and, I've noticed, unfortunately over the years, quite a few students who, hey, I've got to meet with you. I go to my office or now, set up a Zoom meeting and they just don't show up. And you're right. It's they're missing out, but also the person that I've made accommodations out of my very, very busy schedule for that. And it is, time for those of us that are really investing in ourselves and there's a lot of demands on our time. And it's not fair to us to not honor that. And I think that's something, again, if that's happening a lot, those are not the people you want in your, in your circle. So yeah, I think that scheduling is, there's times and things that you have to schedule, and then there's other times where when I'm on vacation mode or whatever, I don't program and overschedule. But there are, I think it's very important to write it down in some form because it just can be overwhelming otherwise.
And that's the difference. You corrected the situation. You held yourself accountable in your partnership. And
yes. Yeah.
And you accommodated That was the opposite of what I got. There was none of that.
Yes, absolutely. And, we all make mistakes. That's part of this human experience, but taking ownership for it, making amends, going out of my way to then schedule a time last night that wasn't necessarily perfect for me, but I wanted to go out of my way to accommodate since I had missed the appointment on Monday. And, again, hopefully that doesn't happen very often, but I think I took the right steps, and it, I don't think our relationship was damaged too much by that. I certainly hope not.
No, and it's always good to be very transparent and honest. And just know that, in your situation, Jake, you did your best. It's not your responsibility to... There are times when you can be accommodating and apologetic, but also it is not in really good business favor if you take yourself from equal status or the status that you're at, and then in an apologetic way, overly compensate to put yourself in subservitude ownership status. Because there's people out there, if you go, oh, I'm sorry, I'm gonna, some people will take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you take ownership and you move on, and you don't get stuck in that. And I think that's really important. To not go into that. Sorry, apologetic. You take ownership, you apologize straightforward, and move on.
Number 4, how to recognize when a plan of action may or may not be the right time and to know when to do it alone or with someone else. This is something that just recently happened. And if I may, Jake, I will say that I take contracts extremely seriously, commitment very seriously. I took an oath to be fair, honest, and disclose all material facts. And a situation happened within my partnership with someone that I was working with. And we had a contract with a multi-billion-dollar company. And there was some behaviors and things and situations that this other person was doing and then also not doing, and overstepped the boundaries to where I had to put, and it wasn't very hard. I decided, and I had 2 choices. Either I nip this in a bud and to do what my judiciary and fiduciary responsibility is to both parties, and to be fair, honest, and disclose on material facts and address problems so that they don't become bigger problems, and problems so that they don't become legal matters and issues, which they could have, and I'm going to say would have, if I did not take action to openly address this, and if I decided the second part to become or be complicit to these matters.
Mm-hmm.
Then for the sake of having a really lucrative, stable income and monthly check, what would that mean for me in my business? And out of all of these, number 4 is the most powerful, because with doing the right thing, the contracts had to be severed. Now, even though I'm in the clear, I nipped it in a bud in the time frame where it needed to, and it put me in a really, really great position. The whole point of all this, and I want to read it again, how to recognize when a plan of action may or may not be the right time and to know when to do it alone or with someone else. I not only corrected a situation to avoid it to potentially become a legal issue and to protect and preserve our reputations, also realizing the energy and the connection within this partnership in itself was becoming extremely toxic and unhealthy, And I know I did the right thing. I know for a fact, Jake, I did the right thing. It's that human part and that part of me that I don't wish. There are times I used to or may wish. I don't wish with this one that it could have been different, because there's no way that it could have. And I wouldn't put that, because then it could leave room that having it mean to believe that I made a mistake. And I'm not going to put myself in that position either way. To close by saying, is my point to this is, I went into the unknown and I released and let go of a great security blanket that I had, that I worked very hard 6 months to put this contract and to build these relationships. And within that, I am completely in the unknown of not knowing where things are going to go, and trusting and having faith that something bigger, something greater, something more meaningful, everything that could be more meaningful is going to come my way. And I definitely believe that, Jake. It's just still very fresh, and it's my human self that's processing in this, because I had invested since last June into all of this. And to know that something had to be let go, that you put your time and effort and love and passion and resource into it, but knowing you've got to respect that what doesn't feel right. I am in the most healthiest and wonderful place within myself, Jake. And my energy is so clear. I feel limitless, like the film, I feel limitless. It's just,
Yeah.
it's still, for some people, if not most, it is not easy when you know that you have security. And to what extent would a person go through and decide that when it's not healthy, are you going to stick with it? Or are you going to allow yourself to be in such an uncertain situation and circumstance where it can feel? And it did feel. It didn't feel scary at first, but then it clicked in once, everything was finalized and done and put in writing. It's a little bit like, I know what I did, but dang, it came with a lot of cost.
Yeah, no, I mean, thank you for sharing that. I really feel that you're energetically in a very good place. So I congratulate you on taking the steps to be in that situation. I mean, sounds like to me your intuition was saying the energy and connection was not there. The potential fallout in the future was not good, and you were willing, despite billion-dollar company and a lot of money tied up with that, to put your intuition first and to go after what felt energetically the right thing to do, which is not easy to do. So congratulations on that. And I think that's really great. And I think, the more comfortable that we become with ourselves, the more we invest in ourselves, the more we value ourselves, it's easier to follow, that intuition. I'm someone who always has hated conflict. I was always the peacemaker in my family. I like everyone getting along. So I think sometimes I've avoided really standing for what I know is the right thing to do and taking the right action, because I'm so afraid to face conflict or to have conflict in my life. I don't like that. But I've also now come to learn that it's so much better to take action and not be afraid of the conflict. That's something I've obviously gotten a lot better at through working on myself. And this is on a much smaller scale, Steve, than what you went through. But earlier this year, I booked a film shooting in Mexico. I flew down to Mexico. We had a couple days of rehearsal. We did wardrobe fitting. And then I was supposed to fly back a month later. And I got back to the States and just had this overwhelming feeling that this was not the production and people that I should be working with. And, we're not talking about millions of dollars. We're talking about thousands of dollars. And potentially some really great, exposure as an actor. But I just, after being in that environment for a couple of days, I just realized, I need to honor this feeling that this is not the right production for me to be part of. And it's hard as an actor. You work so hard to book roles, and then you have a role, and it's just like, I'm sorry, this is just not what I need to be doing right now. And I talked to my acting coach. I talked to some people that I trust and know, and I got different opinions on what I should do. And ultimately, I just had to go, no, this is not the right thing for me to do. I absolutely knew I should not go back to Mexico and shoot this film. And so I dropped out of the production. Now, I'm not saying that for me, that was the right thing to do. And I was, that's not an easy call to make. And even to your, manager and say, I'm sorry, but I'm turning down this pretty big role. And I had my reasons, but that's something that I'm not sure I would have done a few years ago. And I'm at a point now where I don't regret that decision at all. I did what I knew was best for me. But I think all these other points that we've talked about, investing in yourself, having an accountability partner, valuing your time and schedule, all of that helps to lead to recognizing when a plan of action in your life is the right time or when it's not.
From your perspective, this is number 5, what is the best way to track your progress? I
mean, for me, I have a vision plan that's a Word document on my computer, and it's got my 5-year plan, 4-year plan. It's got a first 1-year plan, a 2-year. I skip a third because that's kind of a reevaluating period, and then a 4th and 5th year plan. But this is something I've got all aspects of my career, my life on this vision plan, where I want to be, what I want, and it's a very active document. I mean, I check in with this, I change things. Some things that I wanted on there have accelerated much faster than my 2-year plan was to be able to have some radio exposure. Well, that's happened in the last month. So, that's changed, but that's good because I can, that's now something that the 2-year plan is much different than it was a couple months ago. And so I love, it doesn't have to be on a Word document on your computer, but I think having a working kind of vision plan, vision board that you regularly check into, and this is where the accountability comes in. With that, with Jeff, he started out as my nutrition and fitness coach, and that's really turned into a life coach. But I check in with him, every couple of weeks, and this vision plan has been huge in my life. Tracking it, looking at it, reevaluating it. For me, that's worked really, really well. I'm curious, Steve, what you do to track your progress.
Thank you, Jake, and thanks for the question. For myself is, where am I growing? And I'm going to be more specific. When am I not being restrictive with myself? Meaning, if I'm being invited to an event, am I going to talk myself out of it or not? If there is an opportunity, going back, like earlier, as I was discussing and sharing with the contract, I could have gone over and over and over the variables. And there was even a little bit of a part of me that wanted so passionately and desperately, keep in mind, passionately, because I was very passionate about this project and this opportunity, but also desperate because I was like, damn, this is a lot of financial security to give up that's paying my rent and everything else in a lot of ways. And I don't want to be going back to feeling like I'm in COVID days. And even though I have investments and stuff like that, I don't want to be draining my savings. And I had to, and I really wanted to look at, am going to be desperate, or how am I going to be in a desperate way And am I going to allow fear of the unknown and fear of the future and the fear of loss and lack affect my character as a human being? I already knew the answer. Yet these were still emotions that were arising in me because it was a situation I had never been in before with a client. It was a situation I never had been in before with a company. As you know, Jake, I've been in the industry for over 30 years. And it got to a point to where I had to speak to my attorney. I had to speak to the rep at this company. And I said, I am going to have to now add into my contract moving forward with anyone else brand new stipulations that a person can be terminated if they move in and start doing this direction. And I'm going to share it. There's a couple things I can share because it's private, meaning like I'm not mentioning the other person's name and doing anything. But one, I have to add into my contract now, which I never thought of, is that anyone that I work with, whether they are a client or not, it is prohibited to use any of my media connection and resources to solicit, to prospect, to obtain money. The second I have to put into that contract is that it is prohibited for any client to reach out to other clients that are part of my agency or former clients, if I had introduced you to any of them, to be able to prospect and solicit for money. And that's just the start of it, because that doesn't include the client reaching out to this multi-billion-dollar company's resources and prospecting, or potentially to prospect. And I know there were some prospects, but a different style of prospects. That the legal ramifications, and to know that this person did not and does not have any relationships with the privilege of me opening up these resources, because I like to have the people I work with at the table of me. You know this, Jake. I'm assuming you know it. There's no way how you're seasoned. In sports, entertainment, modeling, fashion, when you're working with agencies or PR firms or whatever it may be, or an agent, the talent is never included into the conversation. The talent is never sitting at the table. The talent is never given access to television and radio and people and resources. If something's booked, here you go, whatever like that. The talent is never given permission to be able to be treated as an equal when working into these partnerships. I allow it. It is imperative that I give the person I'm working with the opportunity to know what is going on in their career, to be able to feel safe and secure that that myself and everyone else, and that's part of my team and who we're working or collaborating with, that person knows, let's say for you, Jake, that you know what is happening in the best interest for you. How many times is there a lack of communication? And I'm going to tell you, I am going to fucking tell you. These people, actors, musicians, reality TV stars, sports athletes, they talk. I can tell you the stories of the bitching, complaining, and I'm not here to take sides. But there is validity, 30 years validity, that when I have an athlete or someone that is looking for legal advice, certain other advice in other areas, and I ask the question, they don't just come out and bitch to me about, oh, woe is me and playing the victim, but I'm like, what's happening? What is your relationship like? Is there communication? Are you being added into the emails? Are you being asked how you feel about a loss? And I'm going to tell you, they talk. I don't give a shit how long someone's been in business, Jake. Talent will blow the whistle of a representative who is not doing right by them. Now, I can only do so much, but I've never in my career, I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but I've never represented or worked with someone who has taken my resources and connections and to reach out to my other clients and ask for money for a personal project, especially, should have known to consult me and I would have advised. That's just the start there. So just to be very transparent, I believe to be very transparent in this area. When we think of what is the best way to track your progress, you got to track and acknowledge and respect what you will allow and not allow, and how you will be treated by others really does begin by setting boundaries and what you will allow and not allow for yourself, because it will cost you if you give, or when you give too much power and you don't track and keep record and accountability of what other people are doing. In this situation, it is absolutely a fact. I gave an inch and this person took so many miles, or tried to take so many miles in lengths worth, that I did my best to make sure I did not lose seeing where this person was going. And not only did I pull that rope back, I cut as much I could off. So that's my perception about it.
And that's what I think is so great is, we come from such different, we have a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences too, with your public relations background, your law background, your business background, that it's great for me to hear that perspective. And I think anyone listening to this as well, because I bring a certain perspective, but I don't have the background of business and law and public relations that you have. So that's what I love about these questions and talking points, is we all bring such a different perspective, but I think they work together. What we each are bringing something that can hopefully be helpful to others. Exactly.
We're going into a bonus now. What does it mean to give yourself grace? It's easier. That question may seem simple, but it's not always as simple. I can tell you, even for myself, but I enjoy it when I do. When I take a pause, like what I shared with you, giving myself grace to do, and knowing that I did what was right to preserve the integrity and reputation for everyone, but also knowing that certain relationships, contract agreements, whatever it may be, can be long-term or short-term, and sometimes they can be recalibrated and to go to a different level. With that, giving myself grace is to be kind and understanding, and then also forgiving when need be, that when doing right can be extremely painful inside. To know that what the cost could be from human experience, but also it can be extremely painful because you're severing connection. You're severing emotional connection with a person and people, of the hope that you had, from being inspired. So many different emotions going on. There's an energetic death to that. There is a mental death to it, which is extremely painful, because there's certain things. And, for myself, I immediately knew. And even when I was on that conversation with my rep with this company, I was absolutely at peace. And then giving it a couple days, that human part kicked in, and it's like, I had a vacancy, and I'm like, what do I do now? What do I want to do now? I asked myself. And do I feel that this is a vacancy that I should fill with something outside of myself? Or do I want to fill myself in this vacancy? And I chose to fill myself in it instead of trying to find another opportunity, another contract, another client. I just put myself in there. I didn't put anybody else. I put myself. So that's what I did for giving myself grace. I put myself in myself instead of replacing myself with something else or leading myself to believe that I needed to put something else there other than me.
I love that, putting yourself in the place of where that hole was, business wise. I think that's phenomenal. When I saw that question, what does it mean to give yourself grace? It actually reminded me of a conversation I had with one of the athletes I consult with, the one that I actually had this week, and we were talking about how we often talk to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to somebody else. I mean, and this is for most people, I think, that the way we sometimes treat ourselves, the negative self-talk, the beating ourselves up over shouldas, couldas, wouldas, we would never do that with someone else. But why do we treat ourselves that way? And so we have to actually be our own advocates, our own coach. And I think, to me, that's part of giving ourselves grace, is going, I need to treat myself the way that I treat others. I give other people a lot of grace, but I don't always do that to myself. And I think it's just interesting to sometimes have that perspective of, am I treating myself the way that I would expect myself to treat other people? And I think a lot of times the answer is no. And so I think that goes along, Steve, with what you said, but really putting yourself first, but also recognizing how you're treating yourself. And I think or treating yourself, talking to yourself, coaching yourself, that's really important to be aware of that, and sometimes to make some changes.
I agree. How did you like that? This felt really good, didn't it? I know there could be so much more that we can say and share, and I know that it'll pop in our heads, just like we went 2 episodes back, and we've got some correlation with the Mars, Mars, the Jake Jensen Mars effect. It's this felt good. Thank you.
No, thank you, Steve. I learned a lot from today as well.
Any closing thoughts? What would you like to leave our audience with?
I just keep the comments and the questions coming. I am so impressed and learning so much from the insights that you provide, but also some of the questions. It's really fun to see that interaction with those that are tuning into our program. And I know that we'll do our best to address that, to share some of the comments, but even the ones, Steve, that you shared today, I'm just such great comments and insights that we get from our viewers or our listeners as well.
And I also want to add in giving yourself grace. This just came to my mind with the way, from what you shared, not holding on to anger and resentment of that other person. That's what really set me free, where I could sit within myself and add myself more into me, because people every day are so external driven to do, go for something and someone else. Even if it's for them, it's still, oh, I'm prospecting for my company. But what about you? You, just you. And I knew with self-counsel and talking to some people, Jake, to be honest, it was imperative that I was in a place of forgiveness and peace and love and understanding, because resentment and anger and everything else, if that is there, consciously, subconsciously, that person in that situation will always be in possession of you. And most people, when they fall into addiction or anything, it's because something emotionally happened, and either they didn't forgive themselves or they did not forgive the other person, or what we were talking about, to giving grace as to doing the right thing to free yourself for more, even if that more is you. It's so crucial. You got to.
Absolutely. And that's why there's just, sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to cut you off there. There's so much research on the benefits of forgiveness. I mean, we see immune systems are better, stress hormones and levels go down. I mean, there's so much research showing how important forgiveness is, but I don't think it's something we talk about enough, and we should, for ourselves, but also towards ourselves, but also towards others.
Absolutely. All things Jake Jensen, head on over to his Instagram and TikTok, Jake Jensen Media, JakeJensen Media.com. Remember, Power 98.5 streams live now 24/7 on Apple Music. You can download the iOS or Android app. You can also ask Siri to play Power 98.5. You can also add Power 98.5 into your Alexa skill and listen anywhere. No matter what, you don't need a subscription unless you want to enjoy Power 98.5 on Apple Music, then you do. Other than that, everywhere else you don't. Remember, you can find In the Actors and Athletes Studio with Stephen Cuoco and Jake Jensen on all your favorite podcast platforms. We are also available on dailymotion.com. Go to the Power 98.5 Instagram page, Power 98.5 Radio. Click the direct.me link. All the ooey gooey goodness of Jake Jensen, Alicia Pazzoni, Torrelia Hoskins, as well as myself, and what we're doing is all there. Past episodes and more. Subscribe, follow, love, listen. We're always here for you. Thanks again, Jake.
Thank you so much, Steve. I enjoyed it again.
Absolutely. And thank you to everyone else. And quick, can we double check do we have any other, nope, nothing else. Anyone else giving any more shout outs? Elias, thank you so much. Jessica, thank you. Checking out all the comments. Another great one. Well done. That is by Mad Mikey. I'm loving Mad Mikey, Mr. DJ. Check out, you know what? Let's go to his Instagram. Mad Mikey, official Mad Mikey, OFFICIAL Always appreciate your love and support. Stephen Cuoco, Instagram, all things, Twitter, TikTok, STEVENCUOCO. Have a great day, everyone.
Friend us on your socials and let's connect.